Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Health Chats podcast. I am your host, Kelsea Grieveson, and today's episode is a little bit different. This episode is more conversational with my friend, Diera Story. Diera is a long distance friend of mine who I met in a business coaching program a few years ago. Diera is a coach, and in this conversation, she really shows through and embodies just who she is, not only as a coach, but as a human. We talk about authenticity, mindset work, and both of our journeys stepping into business ownership and what that looked like from breaking down the walls of who we thought we were and really stepping into who we actually are. Diera also has a podcast of her own. It's called Meant for This. I would highly recommend checking it out, whether you're a woman, a man, just a human who is on some sort of journey of stepping into maybe a higher version of yourself or your true power, whatever that looks like for you. I think you are going to love this conversation. So let's get into it.
Hi. This is so cute. Okay. For anyone not watching this episode, Kelsea and I are sitting in my living room on my couch. And this has been, we were just saying before we hit record, a long time coming.
It has been.
And that's because we started our journeys of becoming an entrepreneur and becoming a coach and all the things wrapped up in that right around the exact same time.
Yep.
And you came into my life virtually online through the business community that we both were a part of and instantly became long distance friends. And Kelsea is from Canada, Calgary.
Oh,
Calgary to be exact.
Americans. Yes, I am from Canada, but I am here in Hawaii.
Yes.
Right now.
Exactly. And this is your second time spending time here with me. So why I say a long time coming is because we talked about doing this years ago, and fast forward to today, so much change and growth and shifts and evolution within our own individual paths and journeys has happened as life moves in that span of time and within a few years. And so it just feels also right now, because I think you and I are in such a grounded, centered, full place. Whereas when we first began this
journey,
wild ride, we were yes, we believed in ourselves so much, and we believed that this is our purpose and our passion and all the things. And also it was a lot. And there was a lot of unknown and a lot of fear and a lot of second guessing, and just having you and some other important players on that journey in the beginning was just so important. And I say all that because, and obviously I'm going to stop talking and let you talk a little bit too, but just to give some context that it's been such a beautiful journey. And I think one that even if you're listening and you're not wanting to start a business, it doesn't have to be a direct hit for you. There is some part of your life that either is a desire or a passion or something that you want to start or lean more into or call in for yourself, but there's some fear there and there's some imposter syndrome there. And so you don't do the thing. And we want to talk about a little bit, go beyond the surface with some of that stuff, and really go into the depths of what that looked like and felt like for both of us, because I think it was, while yes, beautiful and full of so much growth, super fucking hard at times.
Oh yeah.
And really confronting with a lot of things that even I didn't even realize were going to be a part of this process. So I say those things because as we're talking, as we're sharing our own variations of this story, I just encourage people to go inward and think about if there is anything that is, keeping you stuck or keeping you, you're feeling like you're just not living up to your full potential, or you feel like you're playing it small, or you're in a relationship that you're starting to question and you're wondering, is there more out there for me? Anything within that, hopefully this can be somewhat of a
catalyst.
Yeah.
Inspiration.
I was going to say inspiration.
That's the word that is sitting on my heart. Even as you speak, I'm like, you are so inspiring, my friend. Like, how lucky.
Sorry.
How lucky.
I'm laughing. I have a hard time receiving compliments. I'm like,
seriously though, like,
thank you.
How lucky am I to have met you through something that I just thought was an investment. This is an investment into my business, and it's going to give me a return on investment. Like, I was so numbers and logic, and as I know you were too at the beginning, where what came out of it was so much more. And this friendship being one of the biggest things that has from a distance continued to grow and transform. And even when we don't speak for months, we'll talk and it's like no time has passed, and we're both so deep in our life journeys that when we connect again, it's like, oh yeah, let's go to the depths of everything, because we do not live on the surface. And so, like you just mentioned, for those listening, hopefully this conversation, if anything, and you know, I like to throw hope out to people who maybe don't have it, it can spark something inside of you to see that your brain might think one thing when you're pursuing a path, but by pursuing that path, you will get a totally different thing.
Yeah.
And you don't know what that will be until you do it.
Totally. Yeah. I love that you just said that, because it's that, and I speak to this all the time, but it's that listening to that intuitive voice. And likely it's quiet at first, it's a whisper, but whatever it is whispering, to spend some time with it and to ask what that thing is, and to take sometimes a big leap or take a big risk, because yes, you have no idea what that thing may bring into your life. It may be something completely different than you once set out for it to be. So yeah, huge piece of that. And the thing that I really want to, what came up as I was thinking about what I thought would be the most connector for people, that has been a theme in both of our journeys, is this feeling of being seen, like truly being seen, and how many of us carry such a huge amount of fear around what that would mean and look like to stand in all of yourself and allow the, you know, good stuff, the bad stuff, all of it, the dark stuff, some of the the insecurities, the second guessing, the fears, all of those things. What happens when you allow it all to show and you do the thing that is likely really, really scary? And for both of us, I think just putting ourselves out there and using our voice while wanting to approach that from such a honest, authentic place. And I know that you probably can speak to this too, so I would love to hear your side of this story. But like for me, once I started posting content and using my voice and putting myself out there in that way, there was so much noise in my mind of what other people were saying, of what they were going to think, of how they were going to perceive it, especially as I was being so vulnerable on my past and my lived experience. And I grew up in a small town, and I now live in this small town again. And so I think there was just this really deep sense of, if I start using my voice, there's going to be a lot of people that are going to say things behind my back, or that are going to judge, or I'm not going to be liked as much anymore, because for so long I really kind of played it safe and I still had my own, flavor of myself within that, but like really kept myself, especially my voice, like my true voice, really quiet. And so I would love to hear just your side of that story of like when you first started sharing and putting yourself out there in that way, what kind of things were coming up?
Definitely. And I relate to so much, so much. You're such a mirror for me. I always say like we're living parallels to each other. But yeah, the beginning, I remember the beginning when I first decided I was going to start coaching and I was going to take the online approach, which for many people listening, they're likely interested in going online and doing something with that. Posting content is the best way to succeed in the online space. It's really the only way. You need to put yourself out there. You have to be consistent with it. And it's also the scariest thing if you've never done it before. I know I even talk to people still who are like, you record videos of yourself, you have voice notes, we're recording a podcast right now. I can never listen to my voice. And so at the beginning for me, when we were in that program together and our coach was like, you just need to take a video of yourself, say, hey guys, I'm a coach. This is what I do. Post it on social media and see what happens. I was like, I will die. I was like, if I do that, I will not survive. Like, this is not an option. And he was like, but it's the only option, because that fear that you have, I remember, and I still use this with clients today. If you can't hold it, if you can't hold that fear, it's not real. This is a perceived fear. And I was like, but it feels so real. It feels like a spider that's in my hand and it's going to bite me. And he reminded me, he was like, no, this fear is a story that you've created in your mind, and you have created it so true and so deep that it is blocking you from what you actually know and what you actually want to do with your life. And so I was like, okay, I trust you. Like, I invested a lot of money in this, so I got to do what the guy's telling me to. And I put myself out there and I posted my first, it was either like a photo or a video on my story where I was like, hey guys, I'm a coach. I am, taking on a free client, which was even scary too. But just so you know, like I've started coaching, and by doing that, it was almost like that fear dissipated. It disappeared because it wasn't real. It was a story in my mind, and it didn't disappear completely. Of course, it took doing it again and doing it again, and consistency, the repetition of things. But I guess like what you really asked is like, what was that journey for me? Prior to that, I was a shy girl. I was told my whole childhood, oh, she's shy. She's the quiet one. And by hearing that, because our stories in our mind, what I've learned through neuro-linguistic programming, which is what I do with clients, is it's based off of what we tell ourselves over and over. And it's that story that we were told by someone else, whether it was a parent or a coach or some random kid on the playground. They said something to you that just stuck, and you created this story of it. And so that story for me was, oh, I'm shy, and shy equals quiet, and quiet equals not speaking and not sharing, and really just closing off my throat chakra completely. And so my brain and my intuition, when it's like, no, do the opposite of that. Of course it's going to be scary. Of course. It's going to be the most terrifying thing in the world, because me being quiet, shy Kelsea, she didn't have any opportunity to be judged for what she was saying, because she wasn't saying anything. So it was not only that change of identity, but also all of those fears of, what are people going to think? Oh, I've created this identity of the quiet girl. Suddenly she's speaking. They're going to be like, what happened? Are you crazy? Are you psychotic? Like, there's so many thoughts leading up to it. But by doing it, which I think is the key point if anyone's going to take something away from that, by doing it and doing it over and over and over and over again, that fear doesn't exist anymore. Like, I would say it's gone completely.
Yeah. Yeah, that's such a powerful version of that story that I think is so relatable in so many ways. And it's the longer you carry that story, the more you build up a stack of proof for that to exist and be true. Because if that, as you said, if that story is no longer true, then that's a piece of my identity that doesn't exist anymore. And we are extremely attached to our own variations of our identity. So when something comes in to, be this confronting mirror that makes you look at that part of yourself, there's going to be a ton of resistance towards that. And, from my own like lived experience beyond, becoming an entrepreneur and starting a business, really was in my own personal life and in my marriage and in my relationship, and allowing my desires and my wants and my needs to be so far pushed down for so long that the idea of using my voice was so big that it was like, absolutely not. There's just no fucking way. Like it literally, and I've said this many times, but it literally felt like the words were stuck in my throat and I could not say them out loud. And just, I know so many women especially can relate to that. If you've been in any sort of relationship, long-term or otherwise, but that is like a pattern. That's something that exists for you. Maybe that's like a desire, something in the bedroom. Like it could be anything, but you have pushed it down for so long that if you start to do anything differently, like nobody will know who you are. Nobody will trust you. Like you'll lose your friendships. Everything will fall away. And for me, I felt like if I say these things out loud, my family and my marriage is done and there will be no way to come back from that. And so I kept it all inside, and then it erupted in such a messy way. And the thing that I feared the most ended up happening. And I created that, and it could have looked much differently if I had just listened to that voice that was calling me, asking me to start changing and to start making a shift. So I just used that example because I know in relationships, it can feel really scary to show up as any different version of yourself in that relationship. And it doesn't have to be necessarily a relationship, but to just do anything differently, to take a stand towards anything. One of my favorite quotes is if you stand for everything, you stand for nothing.
Yeah.
And so if you're just the peacekeeper and you're just agreeing with everything, but you're not actually using your voice, then what do you stand for?
Yeah.
And yeah, that can be super scary because you may lose some relationships. And I think especially if they've been, friendships that you've had for a long time or even family, that is super hard. There's a ton of grief in that, and it's not easy. And that happened to me as I was, becoming this different version of myself. And it's okay though, because oftentimes when we resist those things, when we grip tight to them, we're keeping things in our life that are no longer meant to be there. And they've likely served their purpose or their timeline. And people dance in and out, and things, jobs, whatever it is, houses, environments, move in and out. And if we just allow them to be exactly what they're supposed to be, I think the leveling up piece in our own growth and in our own evolution becomes so much easier
And smoother.
Yeah.
And I think many people, like everything you just said, many people listening to this are probably growth minded in some way. They're into personal development, whether that's for business, for fitness, health, maybe just like internal deep spiritual work. But we've always been told as like personal development junkies from the beginning, if it's uncomfortable, you need to lean in. And that, I would say, for you and for both of us, that was the level of discomfort that we didn't know.
Yeah.
Like I remember myself thinking, okay, it's going to be hard because it is something that I just have to show up and do every day because it's boring. Like it's just going to be consistent. I had no idea it was going to be, oh, you're isolating yourself for like 3 months because you're basically rewriting your whole identity of who you are and how you show up in the world. I didn't know that. I had no idea. I thought it was just like hard work, you know, like you just put the effort in. So something, as you were saying that though, that came up for me is, what was it for you that finally, because you said like you were pushing it down, what finally made you say, no, I'm done?
That's a really good question. It wasn't just one thing. It was many moments over a kind of long period of time. And it was shortly after I had become a mom. And it was a lot of internal alone time because I stepped back from my career at that time to be a full-time mom because it just didn't feel right for me to pass my child off to my brand new baby off to a stranger. And luckily I was fortunate enough to be in a position to do that. And also though, it was one of the hardest 2 years of my life. It was the hardest 2 years of my life, her first 2 years, because it was so confronting and I didn't have any distractions. And all I had was this baby who is my mirror that was really pushing me to go inward and really ask myself those hard questions that I had done such a good job with burying and with abandoning and with distracting and numbing. And it just reached a breaking point. And honestly, Rebel was really like the catalyst to it all, even though it was like many moments over time. She was the reason. She was the why. She was the thing that I needed to recognize how deep the generational cycles and patterns were with the women in my family, and how far it went back, only felt in my nervous system because I could only remember back to my grandma. And just seeing the theme exist so loudly and knowing if I continue down this same path, I'm going to pass all of this stuff onto her. And I refuse to do that. And so I can't just communicate this stuff to her. I have to be a living embodiment of it. I have to be her model. And what does that look like right now? And that was really, really hard because that was stepping away from my marriage and, you know, moving out of our house, and then the confusion of that pull of trying to work it out and fight for my family. And then ultimately having a deep knowing, I think on both sides, but I'll speak for myself on my end of just, this isn't right anymore. And we gave it our best shot, and it's okay. And it's actually not just okay. This is what's next for me. This is what's next for both of us. And then came with, you know, when I first started this business, I was much more, and we talked about this recently, I was much more centered around motherhood and how difficult that journey is in the beginning, and the transition and the death rebirth that happens when you become a mom. And then as I leaned into it, as I really started building the business that I had felt so pulled to start around being a mom, it organically and naturally was like, oh no, honey, that's not what you're supposed to do. Mm-hmm. And it shifted into the thing that I once feared the most, which was using my voice, which was literally taking up space because I so desperately wanted to belong. And so that journey then became a whole new experience of, okay, what are the things that are deep down within that I have carried so much fear around? And how can I communicate those things in a way that feels authentic to me so that other women feel less alone? And the thing that I think is so tricky within that, especially as you're like still sort of beginning any sort of new journey, is being authentically yourself is sort of like, does that look like? Like, who is the authentic version of myself? And it's even more amplified when you're putting your face in front of a camera, because I could tell myself that, and then I'd put the camera on and I'd watch it and be like, that's not me. Yeah. Like, that doesn't feel like me at all. And so really having to kind of allow that to be a part of the process, you know, content creation specifically, and within life in general, just to make this like, you know, even beyond what you and I do specifically, putting our face in front of the camera, is like showing up just you, without any of the masks, without any of the things that you've picked up over time to really fit in or to be liked. It's not easy at first, because that, again, back to identity, it's been a part of your identity for likely a long time. So it's not easy to just lay that to rest. So I just wanted to like touch on that piece, because it doesn't happen just because you make this choice. It doesn't happen overnight. You become this next version of yourself over time. As you said, like you put in the reps and you do it again and again. And then slowly that version of yourself shines through
to the surface.
Yeah.
So true. So much just came to my mind from everything you just said. The first thing, who you be is who you become. Who you be is who you become. And that consistency that you stepped into and that I stepped into from, I would say, like an extreme level of accountability too. Like we didn't just do this on our own. People need people. And I know without coaches and without support systems, we were talking every day back at like the early stages. We were like, hey, tell me 3 wins. What are you grateful for? Like we were like there, because if we didn't look at that stuff, if we didn't have that accountability, we wouldn't be looking at that. We'd be looking at, okay, who was I being before? Oh, okay, back to comfort, back to, what feels right, even though it's not right. So being is who you become. That's the first thing. The second thing that came up in everything you just said with Rebel is Diera's daughter. She's a sweetheart. Is when we have children, when we get into a relationship, when we start new journeys, whether it's a business journey or a health journey, or travel is a really big one too, like solo traveling. These are all things that magnify things in your life that you maybe don't want to get magnified, but they do. And when you have that growth mind, which sounds like you have for quite a while, when you have that growth mind, you can't look past it anymore. You can't, have a child and be like, oh, I'm just going to be ignorant to, everything. They say ignorance is bliss, but also when you're so intuitively connected or starting to become more, you can't ignore it anymore. Yeah. So that journey with Rebel being the thing that was like, ta-da, now's the time for you to actually do the thing that you felt so deeply inside of yourself. I'm not surprised by that. I also admire the fact that you had a child and then you were like, and I'm going to do the business thing and I'm going to date. Like you're like, let's do it all.
Yeah, totally.
But that's also, I think, part of the entrepreneur mindset. It's not one that everyone really has. Like we don't all have this mindset of I'm going to dive into the hard thing and I'm going to keep leaning into the hard thing. And maybe we do deep down, like maybe people do, but it's too scary. Back to kind of how we started this, too scary for them to really want to lean into. But as coaches, that's our goal, to help people feel empowered.
Yeah, totally. And I think it doesn't have to also be this big thing. Like it could very well be, there could be something that's been on your heart for a while that you've made so many different versions of excuses around of like why not to do that thing. It could also be something like fairly small. It could be a desire that you have inside, but you've been with your partner, your spouse for 10 plus years. And if you say this out loud, you feel like you'll be so judged for it. Like it could be something just like that. It could be like, wanting to travel to somewhere that everybody else in your life has said that is a horrible place to go. Like that's a silly example, but like it just could be something that is just for you. It doesn't have to make sense to anybody else. And it doesn't have to be necessarily this big desire of starting a business or of leaving a relationship. It could be something much smaller than that. But like the longer you avoid it, the longer you live in this version of yourself that is, with the volume slightly turned down. The compound of that over time can lead to so many different things. An unfulfilled life, it could lead to silent resentment in your relationship, towards your children, towards yourself, shame and guilt for not doing the thing that you set out to do. Really could be anything. And just allowing it to, like, you don't have to do I think for me, it was like so overwhelming to think about the end goal of everything. Like, because I keep using this example, but that's just a big part of my community is women that are potentially questioning their relationship. And that felt like the end goal felt so big and overwhelming and scary. So I couldn't do anything because it was like it was extremely crippling to think about that place. There was so much fear around that. How will I ever be able to take care of myself and my daughter? I wasn't working. I had walked away from my career at that point. So like the financial piece, my biggest fear was being alone. I had built up such a huge story and my life had played out in very specific ways where I was never alone. I was always in a relationship. From even elementary school, I always had a little boyfriend, and then moving into teenagers and my early 20s, like back to back, always in a relationship. And so the fact that I had truly never been on my own just made everything else so much bigger and greater, that it kept everything inside for a lot longer than, you can't, I carry no regrets. I know that it all had to unfold exactly the way that it did for me. And also I share my version of this story because it doesn't have to carry on that long. Because if there is that voice, if there is that sense, if there is that feeling with anything in your life that just feels like it's not fitting anymore, that's there for a reason. And asking yourself why that is, paying attention to that, and then doing something small, taking a little step at first so that you're not thinking about the ultimate end goal and carrying the weight of the world on your shoulders because it feels impossible to know how to get from A to Z. So just taking a little step. And if that is a business, like I'm sure you could speak to your journey, but like if that is a business, what is that? You and I both found the same business community together. And I'm so grateful that we did, because that was the really big push I think that we both needed to like allow the fear to exist and still do it anyway.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. And you're right. Baby steps. Saying that, I'm someone who loves extremes and historically has loved extremes. I would say for me, this last year-ish has been me learning to not live in those extremes, yet it comes up still because, our patterns are so deeply ingrained in us. Like we have already said, it's not an overnight fix. And when I think of how I work with clients, when I'm coaching clients, I remind them, hey, you're not going to, if weight loss is the goal, lose 20 pounds in a week, in 2 weeks, in 1 month even. If it happens in a month, I would be probably concerned. It's the small daily actions that you take that will get you there in 3 months, maybe 4 months, 6 months, depending on your hormones and like so many factors, like what is going on in your body. Your discipline is a really big one. Like it is truly, it's the tiny stuff over time. And I think that all or nothing mindset is also what keeps a lot of people stuck, because we're like, okay, if I'm not able to do it all, whatever that all looks like, maybe in your mind, you've made it like, I've got to quit my job completely and go all in on my business, or, I can't buy any processed food anymore at all, and I must only eat 100% organic whole foods, even though like you eat out 6 days a week right now. Like if you're in this all or nothing, yeah, it's going to be more terrifying, and you're going to be much more unlikely to even take action on it, because it seems like you know, you're here and the goal is all the way up there. It's such this scary thing that you have created in your mind. And on an intuitive level, the more we don't listen to those tiny, and you can probably speak well to this, the more we don't listen to those tiny little intuitive things, a simple one, like I have to use the washroom. Like I need to go to the bathroom. Go.
Yeah.
Don't hold it.
Yeah.
Little things like that. Like that's a feeling. Or maybe,
I love that you called it the washroom, by the way. You're so posh. Is that a Canadian thing?
it must be.
Okay. It just sounds way better.
I know. What do you say here? Restroom?
Well, we say the restroom, but like that's also the fancier version. I feel like a lot of people would say like to go to the toilet. Wait, do people say to go to the, as I was saying
Toilet?
that out loud, that sounded untrue. It is British.
A little
When I was in
British.
Europe, they call it the toilet. No, I say bathroom. Yeah.
Bathroom.
Bathroom. I don't know. Washroom just sounds like, it sounds like I'm going into, anyway, I
wash.
totally just took us off track.
That's okay. But other things too, like being in a room, say you could be in a store, like finding little examples where you can actually test yourself and build your intuition is so cool. This is something I do every day. If I'm in a shop or something, or I'm around some people and something inside of me is like, go, like, don't be here right now. I don't need to know why. I just need to listen to that. And the more we listen to it, the stronger it becomes. And we realize, oh, it is just small steps. It's not always this huge thing. Food. I love talking about food. We all know in our internal being that we should not eat the entire pint of ice cream. We know that. We know it. Yet still it happens for like 80% of people. We have this binge eating problem that I used to seriously struggle with. We know though, I should probably put like a little bit of this in a bowl or maybe a cup or something, and that's enough. And I'll feel satisfied from that. So learning to listen outside of just food, but to that little voice, helps you create the reps, create the consistency to then eventually get to the goal, and you'll get there likely a lot quicker than you even realize.
Yeah.
But it's that shift.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that you brought that up because that's how it begins. That's truly how it starts. And for anybody that's listening, feeling like I can't hear my intuition, I don't know what you're talking about, I can't relate to that. That was certainly me. And I used to consider myself a very like deep human. And it's so funny looking back on that version of myself today. I can so clearly recognize that I was just dipping my toes in the water. I was just listening to, you know, the right podcast, or I was listening to the audiobooks. I was doing like enough where I was consuming it, but there were still so many layers of myself that I was not allowing to exist. I was still keeping them quiet because there was so much fear there. And I had a moment literally today. I was coming back up to my place and the voice inside shouted, "Don't go that way." And there's two versions. There's two ways to get back to my like front door. And I just laughed. I'm like, what the fuck is that? Yeah. Like, what? But sure. And I went the other way and it was a little bit longer and I just laughed. And I use that as an example because I am so connected to that voice now, where she does get loud, where I still have no idea why that was a thing today, but it was shouting something at me. And so the more you take the time to listen to those small moments, the louder that voice can get, the safer she feels. And that within that is just knowing that there are going to be different versions of ourselves that move and shift and change. And it is so allowed and more than okay. That was something that was a really big piece that kept coming up for me, that kept me in the same state for a really long time, because I just felt like I can't be any other version of me. Like this piece that I haven't allowed to shine through before, that's like maybe more sexual and maybe more like free in the things that I talk about and my opinions, and that I like psychedelics and all of like those things that didn't necessarily feel safe. I just built up this story that if I start being more of her, that nobody's going to like that version of myself. And again, back to that fear of being alone. I didn't want to be alone. And so I continued on with those masks and just dipping my toes in, like saying some of the things, but not being all of it. And now, like even within the last year, especially with creating content and having a podcast, like there's actual timestamp moments where I think back to, even 7 months ago where I was dating younger men and like very free and open with sharing about that part of my journey. And that I'm not in that place anymore. And I just look back at that version of myself and I love her because she was just at a different place and the difference though is I allowed all of that to exist. I had no fear around sharing some of that. And obviously my scenario is unique because I have a podcast. So I share a lot of personal details about my life. That isn't necessarily going to be everyone's experience, but like, is there any sort of part of you that you want to lean into more? And you want to see what's in there. And maybe you're not sure yet. And there is a lot of unknown, but the more that you bring that part up and out and let people in, and hopefully you have relationships, friendships where you can have conversations like that. Hey, this thing keeps coming up for me and I feel like I want to try it out, whatever that means. And starting there, like that could be the one small piece, and then allowing that to just expand and grow.
And even that fear of being alone, that's something I'll share a bit about my experience because I had that fear too in the past. But before I get there, I think a lot of people likely have that in starting a new journey. A lot of the time, the people in our circle, like our friends, our current friends, or maybe they're even acquaintances, people have them in their circle. We have them in our circle, yet we still feel alone at the end of the day because there's no true depth there. It's hanging out, talking about surface level things, doing the same things, maybe going to the same bar every Friday, going and, doing the same, whatever, call them mundane things. And there is a lot of beauty in the mundane, but I would say it has to be the right people who you're doing those mundane things with. And so the fear of being alone, if it's something that anyone listening is maybe struggling with and you're staying in a relationship or keeping friendships in your life because of that fear, I would ask yourself, but do you actually feel fulfilled in those relationships that you have right now? Because, and yes, I'll speak to my experience. I was in a relationship for almost 5 years with someone, and it's been time now since that has ended and new versions of myself rebirthed over and over. But that was my greatest fear too, where I was like, if I end this relationship, I am going to be alone. I am not going to have friends. I'm not going to have a partner. I'm not going to have any of these things. And then I zoomed out and took a step back and was like, but do I even feel like I'm with someone right now? And I didn't feel like I was with someone. And it was that question and then answer that helped me make the decision of, okay, I am willing to lean into this fear of being alone, whatever alone looks like. Because right now I'm pretty alone. Every night when I got home from work on the couch, we were living together, but I was still alone. And so I leaned into that. And fast forward however many years now, I have never felt more loved and more connected by the people who are in my life, because those people now are way more aligned, like-minded than anyone who maybe was in my life in that past version of Kelsea. And so that fear, coming back to that fear of being alone, if I, take the fitness path when all my friends, they drink and they're not interested, or I take the entrepreneur path when all my friends work 9 to 5s and they're nurses or whatever. I'm not saying that you're going to lose all of these people in your life, but if you have that desire inside of you or that little voice inside of you, and I'm going to use the word guarantee that you will find your people once you take that path.
Yeah.
But you won't find them if you don't take that path, if you don't take that scary step.
Yeah. Yeah. And the love is so much different because it's when people truly see you, they see all of you. And so you get to feel love for being all of you. So it's a different type of feeling. It's a different kind of connection. And I would argue that that's what we're all here for. And that's the thing that we're all searching for at the end of the day, is to have, and it doesn't need to be a lot of people, but to have a core group of people that you allow to truly see you, all of you, in the mess, in the beauty, in the tough stuff, in, the stubbornness or the defensiveness, like in all of it, in all of the things and patterns and cycles, like when people truly get to know all of those parts, it hits different. And I say this from a place where I had friendships my whole life. I was always surrounded by a pretty big group of friends because I've just loved human connection. I've craved it, and I've had some beautiful relationships. And also, though, where I'm sitting today is so different. The layers and levels of depth that I have in my relationships today, it's such a different experience because they see all of me. And the past version of myself that thought that I would be too much, or that I had my ideas or my thoughts or beliefs were way too polarizing and way too controversial. And if I talk about my past and my affair and some of the things that I've done, some of those demons, that like people won't love me anymore. And the truth is that once all of that stuff started rising to the surface for me and my own experience, yeah, I did lose a bunch of friendships, and they needed to fall away though. It was all happening exactly as it was meant to. And it was the only way, because I had no past experience or examples of what it looked like to have a difficult conversation with a friendship that was no longer in alignment anymore. So I didn't know how. I didn't have the tools or the awareness to have that type of communication. And because of that, it had to get a little bit messy for the things no longer for me to walk away on their own. And then that led me to a very lonely season of my life that was difficult. It was extremely painful and lonely. And I was starting a business. It was all of the things at the same time. And today I'm so damn grateful that it happened the way that it did. Like I literally wouldn't change a thing, because I'm so comfortable and confident that, hey, this is me. And I know I'm not for everyone. I understand that to some of you, I may be too much. My voice, you don't like what I have to say. You actually like really dislike what I have to say. Totally out loud.
People tell you that. I've seen it.
Especially on my page.
Bullies.
You come to my account.
Cyber bullies.
You will get everything and anything in between. And that's a lot of judgments and a lot of projections, and that's okay. I'm in a place now where I think I've said this to you, but I've certainly said this before, that feels like I was preparing my whole life for this moment, to be faced with this opportunity to say, okay, yes, this is all of me. And there is a lot of noise and a lot of people saying, but I don't like that version of you. Can I stand in it though? Can I take the arrows? Can I still be myself? And the truth is, yes, you can. And also now, because of everything that happened previously, I was building the courage and strength and resilience to be confident today and to allow all of that to take place. And knowing that if somebody feels like that's too much for them, I'm okay with that. It still comes up for me sometimes in my life because, I shared something very personal and very talking about my affair so openly that a lot of people, even though it's so common and it exists in so many relationships, and that's why I felt like I really wanted to start talking about it, so that not that we can normalize it or romanticize it, as some people have said that I did, but to start having more conversations around why is this taking place? Yeah. What is the reason behind that? And because it is so confronting and conflicting and polarizing for a lot of people, I still hear every once in a while, like it get brought up, and I'm just like, I'm not going to stop talking. Like, I'm okay if people want to talk about that. Like, that actually has nothing to do with me, because I'm speaking to the people that really are so thankful that somebody is willing to have a conversation about something that is so happening in the darkness. And the only way to take the power away from the things that happen in the dark is to talk about it.
Bring them to the light.
Totally.
It is so true that in our society especially, we only try to shine light on the positive and what's going well, and you close the doors and you don't know what's going on behind the doors, but likely a lot of the time it's some pretty dark shit.
Yeah.
And the fact that you have been able to find that courage to be like, hey guys, here's the truth. Yes, absolutely. Of course, it's going to trigger people because in society, we don't have a lot of that. Yeah. So when we see it, it's like, whoa, I don't know how to deal with these emotions that are coming up inside of me based off of your experience. So I'm just going to like blame you for how I'm feeling, when really it's just that feeling. It's just that feeling of, I don't know how to deal with this. The other thing I want to touch on to that is, in my separate from coaching company, Humankind, that is the core vision and mission, is human connection on a level of being vulnerable, because that is actually what connects humans. We can all day go for coffee, talk about the weather, talk about our cute outfits and, our eyelashes and our toenails and whatever else. Yeah. Sure, we can do that.
Yeah.
But again, at the end of that, do I feel fulfilled? Do I feel like, oh, I just connected deeply with this human, where, let's even get deep right now, I think the purpose of life is to connect, is to love. We're mirrors of each other. I look in your eyes, you look in mine, and I can't see myself the way you see me, just as you can't. Yeah. So having, again, the courage to share those deep parts of yourself, I think is so beautiful. And I just want more of that. So come back to Canada with me. Help me out.
You're so cute. You're so cute. I just think like life is all of it, right? And it's just about having the knowing that it is allowed, you have permission, it is more than okay to be whatever you feel like you want to be. And like, as you're joking about talking about, toenails and eyelashes and stuff, like sometimes I love talking about that. Like I want to talk about the color of your nails. I want to talk about makeup. Like I want to be a girly girl. But like, I don't want to do that forever. And I don't want to just have small talk. I want to talk about all the things. I wanted in one conversation, I could easily talk about like the color of your nails, the outfit you're wearing, and also like what's your biggest core wound and what are you most afraid of? Like that could be within the same conversation, because life really is all of it. It's the beauty, it's the dark, it's, enjoying and seeing so much in the little moments and doing your absolute best to stay present in them. And I think children help a ton with that.
Oh yeah.
Literally Rebel this morning, you're staying with us right now. And so you're sleeping in her room and she's, snuggling with me in my bed. And I say all that. She's been sleeping in my bed quite a bit lately. Ever since we went to Europe, she refuses to sleep in her own bed. That's another story for another time. We're working on it. She actually just negotiated with me this morning saying, Mommy, what if we did 2 nights in my bed and then 2 nights in your bed? And then we went back and forth. I'm like, sounds great. Like great transition.
So smart.
So smart. Anyway, this morning she like just really wanted like extra cuddles. She was feeling super lovey and just didn't want me to get out of bed. And I did need to get to work and I had a lot of things to do. But I just allowed that to be a moment because time is fleeting. And it was that little reminder that just kind of brought me back down to, oh yeah, this is what's important. And to feel into whatever that is in the moment that you're existing in, whether that is something small or something big, or taking a risk, or allowing yourself to be seen in a bigger way. Like, what does that look like? And I think for women specifically, because that's the only thing I can really relate to, is we've been told for so long, and we've literally been burned at the stake for using our voice or for doing something different. So I know that it's so deeply ingrained in our nervous system, that level of fear. And I just bring that up because I know you and I talking about this stuff is, for some people, it sounds nice in theory, and they likely have many things. If this was a past version of myself, there were many things that I wanted to say or do that I wasn't giving myself permission to go there. So I just also kind of want to address some of that like, I know how big it is. I know, as you said, like, you feel like you're going to die. I actually can't even go back to my original videos on my Instagram because they make me want to just like curl up in a little ball and like dig a hole and like never come out. So it's like, I understand how big doing something, taking a risk, or doing something for the first time, or using your voice, or communicating a need. I know how scary that can feel. And also I know that it's likely going to be a requirement to bring you to the place that you feel is calling you forward. And big or small, it is just take one foot in front of the other, as you said, baby steps.
Baby steps, bite-sized steps, because sustainability is a big part of it too. Like, I think you're likely a big dreamer if you have a vision of some sort, vision that goes in line with the word dream. You're probably a big dreamer, but you're not going to get to your dream overnight. Rome was not built in a day. And you want, as you're, working towards the vision, working towards the dream, you want whatever that work you're doing to be sustainable, where you can actually do it every day. You don't want it to be, okay, I can do this for, 3 months, or not. Usually it's less than that. People do like 14-day challenges or something where it's just extremities, whatever the word is. But then at the end of it, you're like, okay, I've, ran out of all of my fuel, and I'm hopefully going to try again next time there's a challenge. So what is it that you can really do that is sustainable? What are those bite-sized things where you can show up every day? Or I think, what do they say, as like a true wellness person, it's 362 out of 365, because those other days you're enjoying holidays, or even less than that. It's like 350 out of 365 days in a year. You're going out for like the odd drink, maybe with a friend. You're taking a week off and actually having a holiday. I'm on holidays right now. I'm not working out. Yeah. I'm enjoying pizza. I'm going for acai bowls. They're so good here. Like, it is really that sustainability factor. Yeah. Of what does it look like for you?
Yeah. Yeah. It's a lifestyle choice. And it's, making one choice and sticking to it over time, and allowing that to be the momentum to keep, and looking at the little signs, pay attention. Like, just really want to emphasize this. The world is a magical, beautiful place, and it wants you to win. It wants you to win. And I say this, I know that life is really fucking hard for a lot of people. So I don't want to like glaze over that. I have come to such a deep belief that it's both, that life is, and you and I have talked about this so many times, life is the polarity. It is allowing yourself to hold two things at the same time, and they can both be true. So with all of that, I would love to hear from you as we like wrap things up. What would you say, and don't overthink this, has been the biggest lesson for you within the last 5 years, specifically speaking to becoming like this version of yourself without trying to be the person that everybody else told you to be?
The biggest lesson is that I can't do it alone. I thought I had to do it alone at the beginning, and I probably did. I probably did need to do it alone for the first little bit. But realizing that we're all mirrors of each other, and there's only so much growth that I'll be able, or that I was able to achieve by myself. Only so much hyping myself up, only so much numbing myself through things. I needed people. I needed to go out into community and spend time with people and hear perspective and get into debates, healthy debates. I needed that. I think you can go really fast by yourself, but you can go way further with someone else, whether that be a partner or friendships or family. As triggering as they are, never let a good trigger go to waste.
Yeah, totally. That's so well said. Yeah, that's an opportunity just to pause on, like, and I love everything you said. I full agreement with that. And that thing that is evoking a big emotion. This is how I like to talk about it, because I think the word trigger has become so loaded lately, and it does have this like negative connotation attached to it. If you could just approach that as, this is an opportunity for me. What is this big emotion that I'm feeling, this sensation in my body? Because there's likely that's coming up because there's a part of you that believes that thing to be true, or there's a part of you that, doesn't like that version of yourself that's being held up. You're seeing yourself, as you said, mirror, you're seeing yourself reflected in someone else, and you don't like that part of yourself. So how can you, the way through is to go into, what is that part of myself that I'm feeling is not enough or is not loved? And what is that story? Like, once we allow ourselves to go back to when that story was created, I would almost guarantee that it's from a much younger version of yourself, and you were doing the best you could with what you had in the place that you were at. And to just know that allows for so much more compassion, and also then awareness for, now I have the knowledge that this is an existence for me. I don't want to bring this forward. I don't want to show up this way anymore. I don't want that to control or dictate my behavior in my life. So how can I change that slightly? And yeah, we need people sometimes to hold that up, to also have some of these more difficult conversations and give us some feedback of like, hey, this is how I'm feeling from you. This is what I'm receiving from you right now. And going there without judgment or without defensiveness, and just sinking into it and having a conversation, because that's then how we all, build deeper levels of intimacy and connection in our relationships, and also can be more authentically ourselves, and can be more of just all of the things that we came here to be, without the fear of, what are other people going to say if I allow this part of myself to shine through?
Oh, you spoke that so well.
I swear, sometimes when I'm talking, I'm like, what am I even saying right now?
So just pure wisdom.
And I would say just take what feels right, leave the rest. We can laugh at ourselves. Like, I've just come to such a place of being able to laugh at myself so much, because sometimes, and I think this is the beauty, and you could probably attest to this in like sending voice notes to people, the more you do this, because I know you do this with your clients as well, and I do this with my friendships. Yeah. I do this across the board, and I love it. I feel like it's such a beautiful way to communicate. But sometimes I'll talk. I was sending one to my girlfriends earlier today, and I was about to say like, buckle up, because I was giving them like an update on my love life. And then I said that. I was like, I was about to just tell you guys to buckle up. Who says that? Anyway, just allowing it to be.
I said that to someone. Did I say that to you?
Did you say it to me?
I think I did.
That's so funny. It felt so, as the words were coming out of my mouth, it felt so inauthentic to me, but I
Yeah.
must,
You
that's
probably
so good.
got
I
it
absorbed it
from
from
me.
you.
Yeah. I
That's
don't know
so funny.
when I said it,
I'm
but I
so
said
glad.
like, buckle up.
I'm so glad we just had
Kids.
this conversation because that's so full circle, because that was not me. And again, like, just, me and depth. I
Yeah.
like can't help myself. But like, that is where we can pick up other people's stories. We can pick up other people's things, and it can get kind of blurry of like, is this my own or is this someone else's?
Yeah.
And the more you start like being yourself, and I say being yourself, I know that is so big. That's such a big thing to say. That's not easy to just be yourself. Sounds so great. But when you really can be that version of yourself as much as you possibly can, of course, then you can recognize so much quicker, like that example that I just shared, as the words were coming out, I felt this isn't me.
Yeah.
And I immediately could laugh at myself. And I've worked really hard to be able to differentiate between the two, though. It wasn't easy at first because I was wearing so many masks, and those stories, were so deep for me. And then one by one, as they kind of fell away, it's like all that's left is like, oh no, this is just me. And yeah, sometimes I like slip up. We're human, and that's okay.
Well, we're creatures of influence. Like we see each other. And I know when I was here last, or when I was traveling down in California, I remember people, they're like, you don't sound like you're from Canada. And I'm like, well, I'm probably hanging around people who speak a little bit differently. So we just pick it up. It's natural. And also, that's something I notice you say a lot. You're so good with your ands.
You're so cute.
When you have that awareness, when you have that self-awareness, which takes work, a lot of work, constant work, you're able to catch it right when it happens.
Yeah.
And you're like, nope, that's not me. Doesn't feel right. We're going to throw that away and giggle.
Yeah, totally. And even be able to apologize. That's been something, I know I keep saying we're going to close this up. I just could talk to you forever. Is being able to apologize like pretty soon after something happens. And this is a piece of my own personal journey that I feel so proud of, because there was a past version of myself that was just so headstrong in like, no, I'm right about this, and I'm going to stand firm in that, instead of being like, no, there was a part of that I take full accountability and ownership for in my creation of that. And I apologize for showing up that way, or for bringing that energy forward. Like, that was not my intention. I think that there is so much power in being able to apologize for something, sincerely apologize and mean it. And a lot of like reflection goes into that. It's not, again, that's like a muscle that needs to be flexed if that's not something that's been common for you. But if you crave deep levels of connection in your relationships and you love the person on the other side, then having the strength to go first, or the awareness to go first, and allows the other person to meet you there and to drop in. And then you can both communicate about the things that, like, okay, yeah, I could have done this, or I could have done this. And then you have this difficult or tough conversation, and the other side of that is way more connection.
Absolutely. And in yoga, we call that the ego versus the self, and not the external self, because that's more ego, the higher self, the internal self, the one beneath all of the masks. It's usually our ego that's like, no, I want to be right. Like, look at me, like, and it's just like, it's cocky, but it's also that fear of uncomfortable conversation, which usually admitting that, oh, I was wrong. I apologize. I'm so sorry. Please forgive me. It has a lot of that like ego hit and ego death in it. But I think in this kind of higher consciousness way of living and pursuing life, it's a lot of ego death over and over and over again.
Totally.
And eventually you get to a point in communication, again, for anyone listening who maybe hears these concepts and they're like, whoa, like, I could never. eventually you get to a point where it's natural, where it just comes out. Just like right now, you know, put on maybe your right sock, then your left sock, or you don't even know, maybe you're not even aware yet of how you do that, but you have your processes in life and things where eventually conversations, uncomfortable ones, they become second nature and they come quicker because you listen to that higher self. And someone once said to me that the most successful people in the world are people who have the most uncomfortable conversations. And I've held on to that because I believe it's so true. And this brings me to a question I actually want to ask you. I wanted to ask you this. How would you define success in your life?
It's a deep one. Today, this version of myself would define that by the amount of love that I feel on a daily basis. And I say that, I know that that may sound cheesy as fuck, and that's totally fine. I have that in me. Like, I love quotes. I'm such a big, sensitive softie at the end of the day, and just like such a lover girl. But and I brought this up to you recently, was watching a video of Peter Crone, who's one of my just all-time favorite communicators on the planet. He was talking about this idea of living in love, and not living in love with someone else or in love with your house or your car or your money, but just existing from a place of love and showing up in that, embodying that energy. How differently your relationships look, how differently your life looks, how differently your mood and your thoughts and everything surrounding that, how different that looks and feels, because you're not only like bringing that inward to yourself and loving on yourself, you're also expressing that outward into the world. And so you're just like sprinkling these like little drops of love, and not everyone's willing to or open to receiving it. So sometimes you're spreading it and someone's so closed off by it, not allowing that to shut you down. And, you know, it's, you know, no secret that I've been dating over the past couple of years. And there have been many moments where I could have easily walled up, shut down. There was pain there because I do have this big, wide open heart, and I express myself in that way, and I let love in and I pour love into other people. It's not always received at the end of the day. So there is some hurt there. I choose, though, to feel it. I'm not like abandoning or avoiding or numbing it anymore. I'm feeling it and taking whatever time and space I need in order to feel it all. And then still pouring that love into everything and anyone that I possibly can, because that's just me. And to me, that is what we came here to do. So for me, that's what success looks like.
I love you so much.
I'm just such a big lover. I can't help it. I literally can't help it.
So happy. So happy. That's, I mean, best answer ever. Everyone should live in a place of love. Keep your heart open, quiet your mind, open your heart. I think Ram Dass said that.
Yeah.
The more open hearts we have, I truly believe the world is a better place.
Totally.
So you defining success as that, when you could have said anything. I'm not surprised that you said that. Not at all.
Yeah. And I also, just like a little piece within that, this doesn't mean just pouring your love to people that don't deserve it. Like there is, and I don't mean like protect your love. Like it comes from a very intuitive, felt place of, yes, I'm just going to give love as much as I possibly can, and be able to recognize, though, if something is not open to receiving it from me, and making sure that you're not like over pouring that into somebody else's cup and not allowing that to be filled back up in your own. I think that that's just sort of like an important kind of caveat within that, is just knowing when things are right and when things are not right, and being able to walk away when something is no longer right. That's also something I've gotten so much better at, because again, we only have so much love to give. Like, yes, I believe that love is endless and boundless. Absolutely. And also energy is a very real thing. And I think that is an important factor of knowing when something has, again, back to what I said previously, like served its timeline, and not being afraid, of having those difficult conversations and recognize that, hey, this thing isn't for me anymore, and allowing that to be okay.
Yeah. It's the cups. Like how full is your cup when you're leaving an engagement with someone? Is it reciprocated? If you're feeling empty every time, there might be one time where it's like, you know what, that really drained my cup today because my friend was, feeling a little bit off. But if it's every single time, that's where it's kind of those checkpoints of, is this the right relationship? Do I feel like I can have a conversation with this person? Am I going to? What does that conversation lead to? So yeah. I love that.
I love you. This was so fun. I know we could go to many, many more places, but I think we could leave it here with the little pieces of wisdom we shared from our own experience, and beyond that, please share with everyone, like, where can people connect with you and find you? And I know we didn't really talk too much about what you do, so whatever you want to let people in on and share within that, please do.
Thank you. So find me on Instagram at Kelsea Grieveson. We'll put it in the show notes. You can also find me on YouTube and my website, ccoaching.ca, Canada. And I'm a health coach. I help people in all areas of their health, whether that be nutrition, fitness, mindset. I believe that mind, body, and spirit, they all exist together. So if you're in this place right now where you're struggling with your relationship with your body, your perception of self, your relationship with your food, call me. That is what I can help you with.
I love that you said call me.
Call me on Instagram.
Exactly. Anytime my phone rings, anybody in my life knows this about me, like actual phone calls, rarely answer those.
I love to answer phone calls.
I need to have previously agreed that like this is happening, unless it's like I'm about to see a friend, or we're planning to like see each other, or we're out somewhere and we're calling someone, like that's different. But if like someone is just randomly calling me, like, do not leave a voicemail. Like, I probably won't pick up. I need some notice.
You're
and
so
that's probably a toxic trait of mine. And all of my friends listening are laughing hysterically about this because they tease me that I never pick up the phone.
Yeah. I love it. I'm the opposite. I'm like, oh, it's a random phone number. Okay, let's see. Could I maybe win something? Is it a scam? Is it a potential client? Like,
you are so funny.
Let's play a game.
I'm the opposite. That's so hilarious. I love that. But I appreciate that about you, because we need people that always pick up the phone.
Yeah.
I know the people in my life that always pick up the phone, and that's like also a beautiful quality. It's not, I'm sharing that as like a vulnerable piece of myself that is not necessarily a good trait.
Well, you're so sweet. And same with you, Dee. Where can people find you? Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yes. Yeah. Very similar. Instagram is where I'm most active. It's where I hang out the most. Also YouTube, the podcast is there as well, so you can watch the episodes there. And I help women use their voice and take up space, connect deeper to themselves, their intuition, to really live and embody the version of themselves that they know has always existed deep down. And I walked that path in my own life, and now I feel like, honestly, truly, like this is the greatest gift to my life, outside of obviously becoming a mother, is witnessing other women transform their life in the same, very similar ways that I did, because I truly believe, like, and I know, again, like, whatever, I love the cliche stuff. I just truly believe that this is what we all came here to be, is to just be ourselves. And so, and I know that I wouldn't have gotten here alone, as you said, back to, we can't do this alone. We shouldn't do it alone. There's no way I would be sitting here if I didn't have certain people influencing my journey and my path. And so I just know that is my purpose right now, at least, to help other women do the same. So yes, that is where you can find me.
Don't call her.
Do not call me. I will not answer. But you can send me a DM. I do answer those. I love you. This was super fun.